Jerry, Glenn has a flight this morning, so he's going to be on the call, but not here in person, as it turns out. Joy is not going to be on the call or in person, and Mark is going to be on the call. Here's the only change is Glenn is not going to be here in person, and we'll get his time.
Yep. Okay, it's time to convene. Y'all can please take your seats. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order, and I'm showing 9:32 a.m., March 16th. So let's call a roll.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Joseph B. Wilkinson, Jr.
Present.
Mr. Bob Kruger.
Here.
Mr. Bill Gross. Commissioner Mark Williams. I believe will be absent today.
Conference, I believe. Commissioner?
I believe he'll be absent today.
Oh.
Miss Joy Birch Meeks. Absent. Mr. Trip Tullison. Miss Dr. Buster Evans. Here. Mr. Glenn Willard.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Dale Atkins. Sir, you have a quorum today.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure we're going to have some others join us by telephone. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hopefully when they come on board, they will.
Commissioner Williams may join us by phone.
Right. Okay. And there's quorum. We're streaming online on the JIA YouTube channel. We're going to begin with Historic Preservation Conservation Committee. Mr. Kruger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to call on Ray Emerson, our park ranger, to tell us about new beach informational signage rollout. Ray?
Thank you.
Members of the board, folks here on the floor, good morning. Thank you for another opportunity to speak with you. The title of my presentation is New Beach Informational Signage Rollout. I kind of like to pare that down to opportunities to educate here with our public. A few months ago, I was in front of you and I talked to you about an app we use on our phone called Survey 123. This allows us to enter information about matters we encounter on our patrols, primarily on the beaches of Jekyll Island. And these issues are usually things that members of the public are doing that are not in line with our ordinances or regulations. And we are able to put some important information into this database, including the date and time of the incident, what the incident is and what its resolution was, and most importantly, where it took place. So if you look at the map on the screen, you'll see our island with a whole bunch of little polka dots all over it. Those represent data entries that we have made over the course of 16 months for matters we have encountered throughout the island, primarily on the beaches. And you'll see that there's, we call them opportunities to educate, and there's over 1,300 of them on that map. And if I expanded the map even bigger, you would be able to see that they're color-coded to represent what type of incident we ran into, from people in the dunes to pets in the no pet area to our biggest challenge, which is pets off leash on the beach. And keep in mind also that these dots represent incidents that we encountered, that we actually saw. So the actual amount that's going on is probably quite a bit larger. So we call our new program Doing More with Less, because what we did with these points you see on this map is that we broke these down based on the beach accesses on our island that the public can use. There's 49 of them. And since Survey 123 gives us a high quality GPS point, which with each entry, we are able to identify what are the top 4 or 5 most common issues we encountered at or around every beach access on Jekyll Island. And from that, we were able to create access-specific signs to educate the public. And I know what many people will say, oh, signs, I hate signs, we don't need another one, we have plenty. But again, our program is called Doing More with Less. We are going to do a better job of educating with a whole lot less signs. So if you were to go to the soccer complex access last Friday at about 7:30 in the morning, the Glory access, you would see this. You would see a whole bunch of signs talk about no camping, keep off the dunes. There's no pets allowed here, and watch out for sea turtle nests and hatchlings, as well as the access number. So if you were still at the access or arrived at that access at about 8 o'clock in the morning last Friday, you would now see this. One sign that addresses all of the most common issues we find at that access. The sea turtle nesting sign is not installed yet. That's going to be shortly, but I want to focus on the beach access sign there at Glory, and that is what we are installing around the island. And for perspective, I have an example for you to look at. So these are 12 by 18 signs that talk about specific issues we address by access. So down at Glory, one of the things that is important is that there are no pets allowed. But then as you go to the northern end of the island at Driftwood Beach, there'll be a line on there for no cutting or taking of driftwood. And as you go farther south and you're at the revetment wall, there'll be a line that says keep off the rock wall. And then there'll be other things mentioned as well. And of course, wherever there's an access at a pet-friendly beach, you will have a line that mentions keeping pets physically leashed and under physical control. So what we hope with this is that we will be able to better educate the public. Each sign will have more mentions of things rather than a whole bunch of signs that mention one thing each. We hope that our educational conversations will be able to be diminished a little bit and that the public will be better prepared when they enter our beaches. And there's a side-by-side comparison so you can see a much cleaner look, bright colors, very easy to read and understand. Folks, I appreciate your time this morning and thanks for another opportunity to speak with you. And as always, I am available for questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate the decluttering, if you would, of the signage around the island. Any comments or questions from any of the board members? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, that concludes our report.
Thank you. Before I move on to Mr. Gross, we'll open the floor for any public comment. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes each person. Do we have any? All right. Let me read into the record. Written public comments can be submitted online until 12 noon on Monday, March 15th at the JIA Board of Directors website. The name of the person and the topic of the comment will be read into the record. The full public comment will become part of the permanent record. Opportunities for in-person public comment will be offered at the board meeting. And there are 2 comments received online. Golf Master Plan, Steve Smith. Golf Master Plan Final Report, Julia Miller. Board members have received full copies of all written comments. I'm going to proceed now to the Finance Committee and Bill Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll go over the February financial statements first.
Is this working okay? There we go. Okay. The revenues for February were $1,603,865, which is $251,000 less than the budgeted for the month. Year-to-date revenues reflect a favorable 1.3 million variance from budget, but an unfavorable 2.2 million variance from prior year to date. In February, we experienced rain 16 out of the 28 days. resulting in about 4 inches of rain, which is 20% higher than average. Weather had a big impact on traffic counts and parking revenues, as well as revenues for several of the amenities. Locations with the largest variances from budget in February were the Convention Center was off by $239,000. The center had 3 events, resulting in only $38,000 in revenue for the month, but COVID still having a major impact on the revenues. Museum was down by $29,000 due to COVID. Tour buses still have not returned to JIA. In addition, the rain had a big impact on daily visitation. Landscaping was about $44,000 over. Funds were moved from the tree fund account to cover expenses for trees purchased for the island reforestation project. The campground was $27,000 better. Even with all the rain in February, the site rentals and the concession sales were both better than budget for the month. Campground revenues have been up consistently for the past year, reflecting $317,000 favorable variance from prior year to date revenues. Expenses for February were $1,699,973, which is $80,000 or 5% less than the budget for the month. Year-to-date expenses were $2 million less than budget and were $2.8 million less than prior year-to-date expenses. Largest expense variances for the month were human resources, under by $64,000 due to vacant positions, repair and maintenance over budget by $106,000, which was timing issues from earlier in the year, contracts with the convention center staff being partially furloughed is $96,000 under budget. Net operating cash loss for February was $96,109, which is about $170,000 worse than the budgeted net operating income of $74,368. Year-to-date net operating cash income is $3.3 million better than budget and $624,000 better than year-to-date income. Traffic stats. Total traffic count for February was 83,225 vehicles, which was 1,878 fewer vehicles than February of 2020. Year-to-date traffic count is 173,562, which is 6,527 vehicles better than the prior calendar year to date. Hotel reports. In February, the revenues reported by the hotels were $1.9 million, which is $1.6 million less than February 2020. Occupancy rate was 44.4%, which is down from 72.5%. Revenue per available room was $63.53, which is down from $104.40 in February 2020. And the ADR, average daily rate, was $138.67, which was down from $143.91. Year-to-date revenues reported by the hotels is $3.5 million, which is $2.6 million less than the year-to-date revenues, 2020 revenues. Occupancy rate was 39.9%, which is down from 63.5%. The revenue per available room was $54.59, which is down from $86.83 for year-to-date 2020. The ADR was $137, which is up from $136.80. So those are the stats from February. So hopefully I know we've got a better month going on in March, drier weather, spring has sprung. Second thing, we have a funding request for Summer Waves Slide Complex. Noel?
Thank you, Mr. Gross. I'm pleased to say that this is the final funding request for the new slide complex at Summer Waves. If you remember, back in December of last year, we had a request for $231,000 for the civil package, and that civil package right now is wrapping up, and it's time to request for the vertical package, which would include the steel erection and putting the slide complex together and all the the vertical plumbing and all the electronics that go with the new slide complex. So in order to complete the project, we split it up into two to where we can get a better cost on the vertical package. And this vertical package consists of steel erection, slide assembly, water supply, piping, pumps, electrical systems, and is estimated at $198,837,000. But I want to remind everybody that this slide, when it was built 3 years ago, going on 4 years ago in Pooler, before that water slide complex went out of business, they paid $1.2 million for it. So if you add up the funding requests that we made, including the initial purchase and transportation of $160,000, the authority has only spent $597,837,000 on a $1.2 million slide complex to have it brought here, disassembled, brought here, and installed and ready for the public to use in May. So that's a 50% discount. And on top of that, the folks in Pooler gave us access to a brand new splash pad expansion, which we'll try to undertake at next off season. And they also let us take turnstiles and other items such as granite countertops that was just going to be demolished. So we got a bunch of free items to update our water park from their water park in the process. So there was a lot of extra parts that went to it. So to have the new slide attraction open for beginning of May, staff is requesting a capital expenditure of $198,837 for the vertical package of the Summer Waves Water Park Slide Complex. The vertical finishing package ensures completion of the project within the next 30 to 45 days. So that's a request that we have, sir.
Very good. Is there a motion to approve the recommended funding request for Summer Wave Slide Complex as recommended by Noel?
I'll make a motion as long as Jones is the first person that goes down the slide when it's installed.
Hey, I'm game. I'll race you, Trip.
Chair's going to rule that out of order.
I'll make a motion.
Well said.
Second that motion, and I further amend that motion by saying that it be filmed and displayed on YouTube.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, next is a funding request for pressure washing for Beach Village, Convention Center, and the Great Dunes Restroom. No?
Yes, sir. These next two funding requests were funding requests that were removed from the budget due to COVID. Typically, these two funding requests are in a normal operating budget, but since removed, we were asking for, in this request specifically, money to pressure wash Beach Village and Great Dunes Park, and we're adding in the Convention Center since it's relatively dark or closed from time to time. We have a good access to go ahead and get the Convention Center knocked out while we're at it. So usually we do this twice a year. We break it up into two separate requests, or not requests, two separate line items in our operating budget. But this year, since of COVID, we're asking for bids for the lowest responsive bid for hot water pressure washing. And we got 3 bids, and the lowest responsive was Superior Exterior Cleaning LLC with a bid of $37,325,000 for all 4 buildings in Beach Village, the Convention Center, and both Great Dunes bathrooms 1 and 2 to be pressure washed completely with hot water. And at that point, we'll make an assessment of what kind of touch-up painting we need to do on any of those buildings. So staff is requesting an expenditure of $37,325,000 from current year funds for pressure washing the following buildings and sidewalks: Beach Village retail buildings, the Convention Center, and Great Dunes Restroom 1 and 2.
Is there a motion to recommend the approval of the funding request for pressure washing for the Beach Village, Convention Center, and Great Dunes restrooms as recommended by staff?
Make a motion to be approved.
You have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll I'll second that motion. I want to make sure, Noel said $37,325,000. We're talking about $37,325, I believe.
Okay. That's correct, no?
Yes, sir. $37,325.
Any,
Yes, I'm second the motion.
any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Last, funding request for replacement of the grass in 4 locations. No?
Typically, we have money in sand and soils and grass and turf and operating budgets to handle this request, but again, it was removed due to COVID. So staff is requesting to replace grass in some certain areas that had a severe infestation of mole crickets that have caused excess damage. These locations include the golf course at certain spots, the Welcome Center, which you see on the right-hand side, the grass looks terrible heading off the island. The Causeway Towers that we're able to cover up with some overseed, and the Crane Cottage courtyard. A portion of the grass for the golf course will be going into the grass nursery to encourage additional growth for future use. A quote was received from Pine Creek Turf Farms for a total of 38 pallets of grass sod. Staff is requesting an expenditure of $8,054.85 from current year funds for grass replacement. And I just would like to add that we achieved some cost savings on this request by the quantity that we are ordering. We grouped 3 different departments together to come up with this order, and we filled out 2 entire 18-wheelers full of grass with the request, so we were able to achieve some cost savings.
Is there a motion to recommend the approval of the funding request for the replacement of grass in 4 locations as recommended by Noel?
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Noel. Mr. Chairman, before I finish report, I'd like to acknowledge and thank Trip Tollison. I don't know if anyone saw the article from Site Selection Magazine, but the state of Georgia and specifically Savannah and Trip Tollison were in the magazine as highlighted and best in the nation. So there's some great accolades that we've gotten. Thanks for the leadership that Trip gives to the to our whole state and region. Mr. Chairman, that concludes our report.
All right, we'll now open the floor for any public comments. Chair hears none. So I will move on to the Human Resources Committee, to Dr. Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, we're going to call on our Human Resources Director, Jenna Johnson, to come forward. And as she does, let me just say, we all recognize from the time that we entered the causeway to throughout the island, the outstanding job that is done in landscaping, and with some of the harshest, perhaps, conditions as we deal with the salt weather and the hot salt air and hot weather as well. But Jenna's going to be this time recognizing one of our longtime members of our landscaping crew as they are being honored in their retirement. Jenna?
Yes, good morning. How's everyone? So we do have a retirement acknowledgement this morning. Stephen Flint, he's been with our landscape department and retiring after 10 years of service. So there he is on the screen. And I'd actually like to ask Cliff Garn to come up and say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. It's with sadness but excitement that we see Stephen Flint retiring. When he first came here, his primary responsibility was to take care of Great Dunes Park, as well as portion of the convention center. But probably no other employee got more impacted by the work of our board with revitalization. As his responsibility of the Beach Village grew to the Retail Village, Corsair Beach Park, over to all the other parks, basically from Captain Wiley all the way to the Days Inn, became Stephen Flint's primary responsibility. Now with that, he also had a larger crew over time, but unfortunately with Stephen, he had a degenerative disease which really sapped his ability physically to do his job. despite that, I mean, he probably could have easily had justification to retire several years ago. He had such a will and spirit to continue on to work and serve and be a team member for us. He just found a way to come here every day to work. I kind of feel like a little bit of Ben Kruger of him was inspired in what we saw, that had every excuse not to be here, but found a way to be here and work every day with us. So it was with sadness, we did see him reach his 10 years just recently, and he is going to retire with the authority. But for all of us and myself, he was just an absolute inspiration of what the human spirit can do when you're really bound and determined to do it. And despite his illness too, I can honestly say in those 10 years he was here, he had the best attendance record of any of my employees. If he had a doctor's appointment, wherever it was, he would do it early in the morning or late in the afternoon. He just really loved his job and loved to be here. And with his just great tribute to see him retire. Thank you.
So unfortunately, he couldn't be here with us this morning, and so I'm going to actually present this photo of the boardwalk going over to the beach to Cliff, who he stays in contact with pretty regularly. So, so thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the report and business of the Human Resources Committee. We do want to honor Steve for his great work and all of our crew, but particularly Steve in his retirement.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Doctor. We will now open the floor for any public comments. See none, I'm going to move forward. So instead of Joy Birch Meeks, Alexa will present the marketing committee report. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Good morning. It's always good to be here. I am always excited to talk about some of our marketing efforts. And as we go into the spring and summer, you'll certainly hear and see more of the things that we're working on. But I did want to jump back a little bit to the Holly Jolly season and point out some of the accomplishments. I'm sure this is very ripe in everyone's mind. It was a very successful 5 weeks for the season here on the island. We had an estimated 20,000 visitors that visited us during that time frame. And one of the accomplishments that I wanted to recognize was that the Holly Jolly season itself, we submitted it to the Southeast Festival and Events Association's annual awards. They have about 200 participants this past year particularly. And because of the pandemic, and I apologize, I'm gonna take this off real quick. Because of the pandemic, they had certainly reimagined how they wanted to accept those awards and looked at submissions based on how events were able to kind of shift during the pandemic. Some of them went virtual. Certainly we reimagined our festivities and we were awarded the top award for best website, best print ad, and best merchandise, which you'll see here were the Holly Jolly masks that were given out by our Beach Village merchants during some of our events. So just an exciting accomplishment for us to see, and certainly on the heels of a very successful season. Moving into the spring, we also have our annual turtle crawl event coming up. Some of you may recall last year we were very saddened to have to cancel the race. It was this past weekend would have been 1 year ago when we would have held turtle crawl. So in the same vein of looking to reimagine, we were able to reestablish that event this year, make it virtual, and we have moved it to May 1st to mark the start of sea turtle nesting season. If any of you have participated, you'll know that it's certainly part of our mission with the Georgia Sea Turtle Center to help reaffirm that education for nesting season and for the work of the center. So we have recently launched that registration, and as of last week, we have had it open for about a week and a half, and we have nearly 500 registrations, which is very exciting. And our donations are over $3,000 right now, which are up over 2019 as well. We have participants from all over the country, including Montana, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. So Very exciting to see that our reach at the Sea Turtle Center is certainly national. And last, I just wanted to touch on quickly some of the recent island accolades we've received in the first quarter of the year. Typically in March, we start to see a lot of the travel recognitions kind of come out, rankings, different things like that as people are beginning to plan their travel for the year. So for 2021, we were very excited to, of course, be included in some of those that we've received previously. Driftwood Beach voted one of the best U.S. beaches in 2021 by TripAdvisor. That's something we typically do see every year, but we're always elated to be included. We've also received some recognition in some other national publications, including Thrillist, MSN, and even one of our partners, the Westin Jekyll Island, was recently named 2021 Best Beach Hotel in Georgia. So certainly exciting for us and of course for our partners as we're moving into the summer season. And it's really, it's an important accolade for us as people are starting to return to travel, looking to make their summer plans, and as we kind of move into what will hopefully be another busy season for us. And that concludes my report. Any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you so much. We'll now open the floor for any public comments. Chair here is none, so we'll move on.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, this is Mark Williams. Sorry I was late. I just wanted to let you know I was on.
Thank you, Commissioner. We're glad you're here. I'm going to move on to the Legislative Committee. And I've got Tripp down here.
Just a quick report, Mr. Chairman. It's March 31st is the last day. Crossover day has already occurred. And thankfully, there hasn't been too much activity as it relates to Jekyll in the legislature. So hopefully this will remain and that they'll get done as soon as they can. And that's my report.
Great. Tripp, thank you so much. And of course, there will be a special session for reapportionment, which is, I'm hearing late August now. What is that what you're hearing?
Hearing the same thing. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Open the floor for any public comments. Hear none, I'm going to move on to the Committee of the Whole. And I have a facilities update. Mark Wharton.
Morning, Mark Horton, Facilities Maintenance Superintendent. I've been asked to brief you on JIA's work order system. In May of 2018, JIA implemented a digital work order system. Since that time, almost 4,000 work orders covering 5 different departments have been processed. In 2020, over 1,600 work orders were received, and in July alone, JIA processed almost 200 work orders, averaging over 6 per day, 7 days a week. These numbers are calculated at 7 days a week because roads and grounds, water, wastewater, and facilities maintenance departments are staffed 7 days a week and provide 24-hour coverage. This is the same as other municipalities, although JIA also supports unique things such as a National Historic Landmark, the Georgia Sea Turtle Center, Summer Waves Water Park, Jekyll Island Campground, and Beach Village retail shops. Speaking for facilities maintenance, I'd like to point out that most electrical, plumbing, and HVAC work is performed in-house at a significant savings and in a greatly reduced time frame while reducing or eliminating associated downtime. The carpentry and craftsman group does too many things to list, but some of the more significant tasks range from building custom furniture and performing on-site locksmith services to building entire structures and maintaining the beach crossovers. In the past 12 months, this unique group has completed over 500 work orders. In 2020, the JIA team as a whole processed 163 more work orders than it did in 2019, even after experiencing personnel and budget cuts brought on by COVID-19. In 2019, the Jekyll Island Authority was listed as one of the most engaged and most responsive local governments by our maintenance software provider. The reason for this ranking is even though we have a population of about 1,000 people, Jekyll Island was ranked third against cities that are 5 to 10 times its size in the amount of work orders created and second in the amount of those work orders that were completed. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just let me say a comment or two here. Mark and his team are exceptional.
Yep.
And when we were having a budget planning session earlier this month, reviewing some of the data that Mark just shared with you, I felt like it was very important for you to realize the magnitude of his department's operation. As he indicated, it's 24/7, 365 days a year. And he also didn't say, but usually the major things happen after hours. That's just kind of the way it goes, it seems. But they do a tremendous job, and I do think that it's impressive that our facilities team is operating at such a high efficiency rating that the software that we use to track projects has indicated, as he said, that we're operating at an efficiency level of a town that would be much greater in size than Jekyll Island. So I just have a lot of admiration for this group. They do tremendous work, and they're always responsive and immediately so. And I suppose I'm also very envious of their talents because they can build almost anything that's required. And so just felt like that you should be aware of what a great group that we have and what a great Superintendent Mark is in leading that charge.
Great. Thank you, Mark, and your team. No actions required on that. Actually have a request for quotation 342, the sewer cleaning and mapping. Noel?
Thank you. And if allowed, I'd like to also add in that the facilities team, we have over 87 individual buildings that the JIA has responsibility for outright. And they're responsible for all the maintenance on those 87 plus buildings. So that's a lot of buildings for a small staff to keep track of. And I certainly appreciate Joan's kind words and Mark's diligence with what he does. This is a request for a quotation for sewer cleaning and mapping. We finalized the RFQ for JIA board consideration to accomplish sewer cleaning and mapping services for existing sewer lines. The proposed project is performed by a contractor, will include but is not limited to sewer line cleaning, manhole inspections, CCTV inspections, and providing an interactive mapping system highlighting pipe condition ratings and easy access to CCTV videos by clicking on a desired pipe from a map-enabled cell phone or computer. So this is a rewrite of a RFQ that we sent out last year, and that RFQ, we wound up getting a great response. We had over 8 responses to them. But upon review of the responses, we couldn't find more than 2 that were apples to apples. So we went back to the drawing board and we did a lot of studying on how this is done in other places. And we tweaked the RFQ to where it reads in a very specific manner in which we're going to receive apples to apples quotations from hopefully several vendors again. And what we're looking for is a system whereby it'll run off of Google Earth to where our water and sewer guys can go out to a specific area and it would geolocate where they are, show up on a map where the sewer line is, hit a dot on the screen, and it would zoom in and show you what's inside the pipe right there. So that's really good information for the guys in the field. But the most important thing we're looking for is we'll be able to get a color-coded rating of all of the sewer lines on Jekyll Island in red, green, yellow, and based on from an engineer's perspective as to how the conditions are, to where we can put together a package and know the exact linear footage of sewer pipe that needs to be replaced and what kind of conditions in, what we need to replace right now or 5 years in the future or is good for a long time. So all this information is going to come in handy in several different fronts. And we look forward to this project moving forward. So the staff is informing the board of this solicitation in anticipation of a future funding request from the Water Wastewater Department reserves to cover the cost of the sewer cleaning and mapping services. So we look forward to presenting that to you in the future.
So no actions required.
No action, sir.
Thank you. We're ready to move on to Maria.
No, sir.
Oh, no, still on. So no action required. Oh, I'm sorry, we were going to do the SPOS presentation. Forgive me.
Yes, sir. I'm very pleased to give you a final update for SPOS 2016 funding. And we're excited that these projects have been completed with the contractor. Went out yesterday and put together a punch list to present to them. And JIA staff, landscaping, and roads and ground staff are presently equipping these 4 areas with proper picnic tables, trash cans, et cetera. So we're taking our internal action now. But the slide here is St. Andrew's public parking lot, which was part A of this project. And what we were able to do was repave and reconfigure some of the parking at St. Andrews. And we spent a lot of time out there, Cliff Garr and I did, looking at trees and taking the architect drawing and whittling it down to reduce the number of trees that we have lost. We only had to take 14 trees out. And what we did was we organized the parking in a manner that resembled what was there, but we paved spots where folks were just parking on dirt, on tree roots, and in areas we didn't really want them to park. And we've now confined them in areas where we would like them to park and repave the entire entrance from St. Andrews all the way back to the beach crossover. So that was a pretty nice project. And we also added 32 spots leading out. So there's plenty of parking for people. There's no reason for people to have to park on the side of the road anywhere. And we increased the ADA parking stalls from 2 to 5, with one being a van accessible. So that's all good things in St. Andrews. And when I drove through yesterday, folks were happy to see it, and we are too. So the next slide is probably my favorite out of this package. This is North Riverview, the 3-way stop sign area, but we call it the historic Boathouse parking. And we're going to have signage put out here eventually. But this parking area was just an ad hoc parking area where when you were coming on the island, you always saw 3 or 4 or 5 cars pulled up on a oak tree root system or up against the bike path in the way of people trying to ride their bikes fishing. So we've organized this parking, and the best aspect of this parking is that unlike other parking we've done on Jekyll Island, this parking is 100% pervious construction. So every bit of rain that falls into that area goes right back into the earth. The ADA stalls are all pervious concrete. The main drive is pervious concrete, and the parking stalls for folks other than ADA spots are all a product that I specified called True Grid, and it's all filled with number 58 gravel. So that'll perk, and it's at least 6 inches deep. So we put a water truck on it just to test some areas, and they opened up the water truck on it, and the water just disappeared right into the ground. And I've been out there in the rain a few times. So we're pretty happy with that project. We imagine there'll probably be a little tweaking we'll have to do as far as how people behave in there, because we don't have wheel stops. So we're going to keep an eye on that and then adjust as needed. And again, like I said, we have landscaping. But that project I'm really proud of. And UGA, their stormwater division, came over and took a look at it a few weeks ago. And they stated, as other projects we've done on Jekyll Island, is probably some of the best examples of stormwater retention in the coastal Georgia area. So we're really happy to bring that forward. The last couple of projects are the Driftwood ADA and airport parking areas. We're waiting for the contractor to come back up and put the signage in the left-hand picture. for the handicap parking. And eventually we have plans, hopefully, to have funding available to make a ADA accessible crossover type structure to an outlook to where handicapped people can wheel out there and look at Driftwood Beach. But for now, this is a good start, and we were able to use the SPOS funding to make this happen. And in this process, we were also able to delineate the bike lane, which was unmarked before, all the way from the villas to where the bike lane just becomes a paved bike lane north of Driftwood Beach. So that was also a nice feature to try to keep cars and large trucks out of the bike paths where people don't have to dart out into the street anymore. And on the right-hand side is airport parking. That is a perfect sunset watching area. A lot of people walk out onto that boardwalk and watch the sun go down. And it was just a little shell area that people pulled over. People also like to pull over there because it's the center of the island and they feel like they don't know where they're going. So they sit there next to the landmark of an airport and kind of get their bearings and figure out where they're traveling to. So we've organized that parking area and made it nicer for folks. And we also took advantage of a little bit of extra money that we had to extend that into the airport with the FAA and GDOT's permission to make an emergency exit for the airport, which we didn't have before paved. At least there was a gate there, but it was unimproved shell road. And if people had driven out of there going back and forth to Shrimp and Grits, you know how bumpy that could be. And we had some car damage years ago on that area. So that's handled now, but the fire department is ecstatic to see that. And there's one other project that's on here we don't have a slide for, but it's the last project on this list of the $2.3,967,000 and $967.47. That 967.47 is interest that was earned during the accumulation of the $2.3 million. But the last project is the boat ramp road paving, and we were able to pave the boat ramp road from where we stopped last time all the way up to the ADA parking area, which is a good use of SPOS money. That piece of road was well traveled and well rutted and well taken care for. We were out there a lot trying to regrade that piece of road, and now that it's improved upon, boaters and kayakers and everybody alike should enjoy the benefit of that. We do have some speed limit signage that's getting ready to go out there. We had to get some consultation from GSP to make sure that we figured out exactly what the speed limit should be on that road. There's just a couple of things I want to highlight with the wrap of SPOS 2016, because this will be the last time we talk about SPOS 2016. And I just want to highlight the fact that I've been to a handful of SPOS presentations. The SPOS vote here in Glenn County is today, and I was asked to give some presentations on what we did with our SPOS money and how we handled our SPOS money. And I'd just like to state that we're very proud of how we handled SPOS money and how you've allowed us to handle SPOS money as a board. We've put it directly towards the projects that were voted in the SPOS, and we've made good use of those projects. We were able to pave every residential street on Jekyll Island, which was a huge undertaking. And we also got a lot of this public parking paved, which was the other part that was eligible. So really, we got the most bang for our buck out of the SPOS money. And I'm also happy to report that if you were sat through all the presentations that I did too at these various venues, the city and the county are still only 36% complete. And we're 100% complete, and we're pretty doggone proud of that. And we're happy that we were able to have the money to spend, because as you know, these capital expenditures in large chunks like this are hard for the authority to come by. And without SPOS money, these projects never would have gotten off the ground, or they would have, but it would have been very slow. So getting this amount of money at one time was a huge boost for the island, a huge boost for the residents and businesses and visitors and guests and the folks of Georgia alike. The last thing I want to say is two other things that came up in these presentations is that all of our SPOS money is in a separate account and it's audited. So there's no commingling of this SPOS money. We have to wait for it to accumulate. We just don't get $2.3 million in 2016 and then drag our feet to spend it. We have to wait and let it dribble in at $40,000 to $60,000 a month till we amass an amount of money that makes sense to spend at one time, which is why you see all these projects taking place from 2017 on. We'd get a chunk of money, $250,000, $300,000, and we'd be able to get a decent mobilization from an asphalt company to make a good return on the investment, and not just onesie twosie it and burn through a bunch of money and not get a good return on it. And the last thing I want to state, that something I had heard at a lot of these presentations, is that Jekyll Island Authority has always had a project manager from SPOS 2003 and even prior to that, all the way to today. We've always had Jim Broadwell managing SPOS projects professionally. And when Jim Broadwell retired, I took over managing the SPOS projects professionally. And they were all on time, ahead of time, and definitely on budget. As you can see, we spent every last penny on exactly what the voters said we could spend it on: parking and public road paving. And I appreciate the opportunity to complete these projects. And I'm very proud of the fact that the board has allowed us to spend these monies in this way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to comment, please. It's a great feeling, actually, to go to one of the Citizen Oversight Committee meetings for SPLOS and actually be told, we don't need to hear from Jekyll Island anymore because y'all have completed everything. And that's exactly what happened at the December meeting. And that is a real credit to the way that we operate our program with project managers, and Noel did a great job with this. And I think it's very important for everyone to realize something that he said, and that is, if you think about these capital projects and how expensive it is to pay, if we didn't have this money, then how long would it have taken us to have paved all the residential streets and to have accomplished the projects that were accomplished through SPLOS? It's also very important, and Marjorie, you might join Noel at the podium. It's very important for you to realize too that Noel touched on, not only are we required to have these funds in a separate account, but there also are reports and that are required. And Marjorie, you might touch on that for a minute, please.
Okay. Well, as Joan said, we have to keep the funds in a separate bank account. And so all of the funding coming in from the SPLOS goes into that account, and all the payments go out of that account. We also have general ledger accounts, separate ones for the SPLOS revenues and expenses. So all that stuff is kept separate so that it can be monitored. The payment of the invoices gets reviewed several times before it goes out. Noel's in charge of the project, so he sees the invoice when it comes in, he approves it, comes to me, I review the invoice and the checks, then it goes to Jones and he reviews them before they're signed. So there's a lot of steps in there to make sure that we are spending the funds on what it's supposed to be spent on. And then we have to keep the records based on the SPLOS requirements and the state records retention requirements. And at the end of the project, we have to send copies of all of that stuff to the county so that it can be reviewed before they finalize the SPLOS project.
So all I can say, Mr. Chairman, is the importance of SPLOS to Jekyll Island is huge. And I will say this, there is a vote today on SPLOS 2021. And our requested projects are bike path expansions, renovations, and ADA access and safety improvements to the Clown Creek fishing pier. Not telling anyone how to vote, but I do think people need to get out and vote if you live in Glenn County. So it's an important funding source, obviously.
Thank you. We're ready to move forward.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Calling up Maria Humphrey, please. She's our lease manager. And this is the Doc's Snack Shop assignment of lease.
Good morning. This morning for your consideration, we have an assignment of Doc's Snack Shop, which most of you know. Doc, James Doherty, but mostly known by Doc. He and I had a conversation back when the pandemic started about his shops, and he upgraded the sweet shop and did some painting and renovations. And we discussed how things were going at Doc's, and he decided to make a management change. That management change grew and became a offer to purchase. The people that were managing for him decided to purchase the company from him. And now we need to assign the lease, so to finalize that part of the transaction. The new managers have been very well received, and we highly recommend that this assignment be approved by this board.
Thank you. I'm going to need a motion to recommend the approval of the Doc's Snack Shop assignment of lease as recommended by staff. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to recommend the approval of the Doc's Snack Shop assignment of lease as recommended by staff. Discussion. Chair hears none. The call for the vote. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, I have the resolution R 2021-3 to redirect landline 911 calls from Georgia State Patrol to Glen Brunswick 911 Center. Dennis Gailey, Director of Public Safety, will brief us. Thanks, Dennis.
Good morning. Before you this morning is a resolution for your consideration that will authorize the redirection of the 911 telephone lines from the Georgia State Patrol to the Glen Brunswick 911 Center. Currently, all the landline 911 calls go to the Georgia State Patrol, while the cell phone and voice over internet calls go to the Glen Brunswick 911 Center for answering. This setup has served Jekyll Island well for many years. However, technology and government mandates have evolved to offer an improved service available via the Glen Brunswick 911 Center. Excuse me. Having all the calls answered in the same location with all the capabilities to expedite emergency responses is the best solution. This resolution is a necessary step to authorize AT&T to perform system programming that will redirect all landline 911 calls from the Georgia State Patrol to the Glen Brunswick 911 Center. There is no cost to have AT&T complete this programming. Once the programming is complete, the Glen Brunswick 911 Center will answer all 911 calls from Jekyll Island. At this point, Jekyll Island will have what we call enhanced 911 services that will provide the caller's location and the phone number to the dispatcher. Both of these items are key to expediting emergency response and improving outcomes. This project has been a collaborative effort between the Georgia State Patrol, Glen Brunswick 911, AT&T, and the Jekyll Island Authority. Our target for this transition would be the first week of April and will be coordinated with everyone involved. And Mr. Chairman, if you have any questions about this, I'd be glad to elaborate.
Is there a motion? Or is there a question?
I've got a question.
Go ahead, Mr.
Yes,
Krueger.
How long has the Brunswick-Glen County E911 Center been in effect? How long has it been in operation?
The one that's at the Public Safety Boulevard area in Glen County, the Glen County 911's been, I'm not sure the exact date, but it's 911 in Glen County's been in service for many years. They had a consolidation. The city of Brunswick at one time had their own 911 many years ago. And then when they built the Public Safety Center out at off of exit 38. I believe at some point in time in the early 2000s, they consolidated that operation into one Glen Brunswick 911. But as far as the county having 911 capability, that's been, I was born and raised here in Glen County, and I've always remembered having 911 growing up.
I'm more interested in the E911 capability.
Yes, sir. I'm not sure the exact date, but I'd be glad to find out for you.
But it's been in effect for some time.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And, you know, my reason for asking is, Mr. Chairman, is I'm just disappointed that it's finally taken AT&T this long to come around to include Jekyll Island in the process. But I move that we accept this resolution.
Is there a motion to recommend the adoption of resolution R 2021-3 to redirect landline 911 calls from Georgia State Patrol to Glen Brunswick 911 Center as recommended by staff? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Great. And a second. Need a second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, you might have Dennis clarify. Dennis, a resident will not notice the change, correct, when it occurs?
Yes, sir. Mr. Hooks, thank you for that reminder. Yes, sir. There's nothing on the end user side of it that needs to be done. We encourage people to continue to dial 911 from any device, whether that be landline, cell phone. You know, we encourage them to do that. There's nothing that anybody on Jekyll Island needs to do special other than dial 911. So thank you for that clarification.
And Dennis, in your opinion, our service will be enhanced greatly as a result of this. Is that true?
Yes, sir. As I said earlier too, along with the caller's location, we don't currently have that capability. So if you call 911 and you're under duress at the moment and you lose connection on a landline, we do not have the ability to know where you are located. Or if you can't speak for some reason, we have nowhere to know where you're at. So if you call and hang up before we can get that information, then we're relying on you to have to call back, or somebody have to call back in your behalf. And as you can imagine, that would cost time and potentially a slower response. So moving this direction, it gives us all the assets we need to get the caller's location almost instantaneously, and their callback number if we lose contact with them, so we can call them back for more details or give them more instructions as the situation changes. As you know, a 911 call may start out in one location, but because of certain circumstances, it may move, and we may need to continue to communicate with that caller. So very good points, and certainly moving this direction brings us into that technology that we can obtain their location and their callback number, which we don't have that capability now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. I want to call for a vote to recommend the adoption of Resolution R 2021-3 to redirect landline 911 calls from Georgia State Patrol to Glen Brunswick 911 Center. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, I'm showing Melissa Counselor on Resolution R 2021-4.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm before you today to present for your consideration a request for proposal for a code rewrite. This is very exciting in my world. We have, since I've been here, I have been taking notes, and other people have been giving me notes on a myriad and multitude of outdated, irrelevant, etc. things in our code that need to be revised and updated. It is a massive undertaking, and once it's done, it will be greatly improved. It will be easy to use. There is a trend in code writing right now to have graphics and charts to make it very user-friendly for the people enforcing it, the people interpreting it, and the people trying to abide by it. And that's what we intend to do. Ideally, my vision is that we would have this completed by the end of this calendar year. Realistically, I don't know if it's going to happen. We may have to do this in phases. So what we're going to do is put out an RFP that invites, bids and proposals, and they're going to tell us how the timeline that they think it would do, and we've asked them to break it out into phases if necessary, with cost proposals for each phase, because we may have to tackle it in phases. So this is before you for your vote to issue this RFP.
Counselor, I need a motion to recommend the adoption of resolution R 2021-4, adopting revised fine schedule.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I skipped ahead, Chairman. I apologize.
That's all right.
I have moved on to RFP 361. I had it backwards in my book. I'm sorry. So we are at letter G, RFP 361 for code revisions. So I would request a vote on that.
Okay, we're going to vote then.
Since I've already talked about it. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. Request for proposal number 361. Is that?
Yes, sir.
That's the one we're going to vote on. All right. Anybody have any questions? So, all right. We've got, do I need another?
You need a motion.
Yeah, we need a formal motion, please, to recommend approval of the request for proposal number 361 for code revisions as recommended by staff.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Now, Counselor, I go back to.
Thank you. Yes, sir. If we could hop back to item F, which is the resolution adopting a revised fine schedule. If you will recall, about this time last year, a little earlier, I was before you asking you to adopt a fine schedule per the request of the magistrate court, so that they could easily look at our fines and, basically say, well, this is what it is. And since that time, we have issued some citations, and we have determined that we need some more information on our revised fine schedule. A lot of our offenses contained in our code don't have a specific fine attached. So it may be that it just says it's illegal to do X. And then you have to go to another part of the code that says any offense that doesn't have a specific fine attached, it shall be no more than this amount. So what we've done in this revised fine schedule is say, okay, for those offenses, this is what the first, infraction is going to be fined at. This is what the second one is going to be fined at. This is what the third one's going to be fined at. And that makes it easier for our code enforcement officer to write citations. It makes it easier for those individuals who would just like to go pay their citation. And without having a court date, it makes it easy for them to do that. And so this is before you for the resolution to adopt a revised fine schedule.
It's R 2021-4.
Yes, sir.
I need a motion. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution R 2021-4, adopting revised fine schedule. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Then this is a question to the presenter. Are these fines all listed as not to exceed or up to, or they are what they are and there's no judicial discretion, I guess is my question.
Sure. There is, It's a multifaceted answer. So for those fines in our code that specifically say, so for the false alarm ordinance that we just recently did, that has specific, for the first offense, it is, first and second offense is a written warning. And in the code, it says for the third offense, it's $150. For the fourth offense is $300. But if you go to, say, overnight parking, it just says, see back to this other code section, which is no more than, I think it's $500 or $600. So in those where it doesn't have a specific fine listed in the specific code section, that can be in judicial discretion. Of course, most everything can be in judicial discretion, even if we do have a fine listed. But we will cite them according to this revised fine schedule. They can go to court and argue differently.
Thank you.
Any further questions? We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor of the adoption of resolution R 2021-4 will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess now we go to Jones's report. Executive Director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few things to call to your attention today. Back in December, Mr. Tolleson and Chairman Wilkinson and I met with the governor and his staff regarding the expansion of the campground as well as the public safety facility, proposed facility. And as a result of that meeting, we have received an award from the Georgia State Financing and Investment Commission of $999,470 for four bathhouses that will kickstart actually the expansion of our campground. Obviously, the campground project is larger than just the four facilities. However, this goes a long way toward the project, which is about $2.5 million. And that's the 12-acre expansion that has been approved even in the master plan that we're operating under today. So this is an exciting opportunity for us to move forward. I think it's significant to note that our reviews, our ADA reviews that we conducted earlier with the state, that those were significant in the process as far as how we wrote the application for these funds, and that's important that these new facilities will be ADA compliant and will certainly provide us with four new facilities at the campground, replacing two that are there now, and then two additional ones for our expansion. So this is good news, and we expect the design completion and acceptance to be by April the 2nd, and then the project will be overseen by GSFIC, and we expect the construction to actually begin in July and for the completion to be next February. So that's an exciting return there on that effort, and we appreciate you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Tolleson, your efforts on that. I'm excited today too to bring to your attention that we're moving forward now with membership programs for the Mosaic and the Georgia Sea Turtle Center. This is something that's been talked about for some time and actually was put on hold last year because of the pandemic. And both of these programs are now being rolled out And it's exciting. They're very similar in costs, $45 for individuals, $80 for a couple, and $140 for a family member. And then there are various benefits that are part of each package. And so I think that it's a good thing for both of those facilities, and we have lots of interest and lots of return visitors to both of those. And so I'm excited to be able to offer this membership recognition and this membership opportunity to our visitors and guests. The next item that I wanted to mention to you is one that just happened over the weekend. Saturday night late, the Emerald Princess onshore facility, their ticket facility, was a total loss to fire. And I've had conversations with the principal involved, Louis Dyer, over the weekend, and Noel has also been in contact with his team, and we are working very quickly with them to get a facility back up and running, an on-land facility back up and running, so that they don't miss any of the season. And so we're hoping to be able to work with them and have a temporary facility in place before this weekend. I am pleased to confirm that no one was injured in the fire, and the boat actually was out at sea whenever the fire took place. So that's just a report, but to let you know that we are working with them, and we anticipate a resolution of that situation very, very soon. We just got we just received word from the Arbor Day Foundation that Jekyll Island has again received the designation of 2020 Tree City USA. And this ties in with so many of our accolades that we give to our landscape department and certainly Cliff and his efforts as far as our reforestation of the island. You will recall that in your budget this year, there was $10,000 toward island-wide reforestation, and we continue that process, have in the past several years. And I'm real pleased that we're going to be able to show you some pictures very soon at a future meeting of some of the projects that have been accomplished this year that are very public, such as the Captain Wiley Golf Course pond improvements. And so we're just always very pleased at the opportunity to continue to have reforestation occur on the island. And while you actually approved $10,000 for those efforts, our total reforestation efforts this year will be about $33,000. And that's a result of our tree fund and the funds that are approved through the regular budget process. I also want to mention that at the last meeting, Melissa briefly mentioned 5 Hayes and Hayes Avenue, and we had worked with the owners of that particular home, and as a result of our purchasing the home, are actually it being deeded to us and us paying the back taxes, we were able to go in and actually demolish the house, which was in bad condition, and now we'll be able to move forward with an opportunity for a new housing unit to be built at 5 Hayes. And Melissa is working on the process now, whereby we will make that very public, and we'll look to have a bidding process on that particular lease. And Anyone who has expressed interest to us, we're keeping their interests noted in a file, so they will be contacted directly, but we'll also make that very public whenever we begin that process. As a result of the JIA securing that home, we are able to move forward with the process much more quickly than if the home had sold on the courthouse steps. There would have been waiting periods that would have been required as a result of that, and so now we're going to be able to move this forward and continue to have a good, viable neighborhood there, and I think it'll be a very positive statement for the neighbors as well as the JIA. Mr. Chairman, that's all my report at this time, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. Chairman's comments. Again, I just cannot say enough wonderful things about this staff and what they have been able to do under the most trying of circumstances. And I thank all of you. We're ready to go to public comments. I'm going to open the floor for any public comments. Yes, sir. You'll give us your name and your address.
Al Tate, 958 North Beachview. I rise to comment about the proposals for the new code revision. And first of all, I want to applaud the authority for an attempt to address this issue. And secondly, I want to express a concern that the residents of Jekyll Island need to be more integrally involved in the actual development of the code revisions. In item A of the proposal, it says that while not infringing on the rights of leaseholders and tenants, which I think is the exactly right thing to do. But the thing that concerns me is in the case of most of these contracted out development of things, the public is sort of considered as a single amorphous entity and is given the opportunity on a limited and very controlled basis to have input. But these code revisions are going to impact the residents of Jekyll Island in a very significant way. And so the term public outreach needs to be identified a little more carefully than just the general public. And people who are residents of Jekyll, neither are they an amorphous or homogeneous group. You have different types of residents on Jekyll Island that have different interests and different concerns. These people need to be involved in the development of these code revisions. So I would recommend that the Jekyll residents be specifically included in the proposal for RFP so that whoever gets the contract will be aware that Jekyll residents need to have an input to that development of the code revisions. And there's several different ways to do that, but I think that when you talk about stakeholders here, you definitely need to be concerned about the different categories of stakeholders we have and make certain that they are included in the process of developing this new code revisions. Again, I think it's very needed. I think it's something that, if done right, will be of great benefit to all on the island and specifically to us residents that live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. And you kept it well under 3 minutes, so thank you. Appreciate that. Any other comments? All right, I'm going to open the March 16th board meeting of the Jekyll Island Authority. Please note for the record, item 5 was listed in error. As it is an informational only item, it has been removed from the board meeting agenda. We will now call the roll to be official.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Joseph B. Wilkinson, Jr.
Here.
Mr. Bob Kruger.
Here.
Mr. Bill Gross.
Here.
Commissioner Wark Williams.
Here.
Ms. Joy Birchmead is absent today. Mr. Trip Tolleson.
Here.
Dr. Buster Evans.
Here.
Mr. Glenn Willard.
Here.
Mr. Dale Atkins.
Here.
Sir, you have a quorum today.
Great. And for the record, have we had any members leave or enter the meeting in person or on the phone?
I think you might check to see if Mr. Willard is still with us. I think he may have had to.
He got a flight, didn't he?
I'm still here, James. It's Glenn.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm going to move ahead to a motion to recommend the approval of the minutes of the February 16, 2021 board meeting as recommended by staff. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve the minutes of the February 16, 2021 board meeting. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Carries. This is next to funding request for Summer Waves Slide Complex. Board members have received a Finance Committee recommendation to approve the proposed funding request for Summer Waves Slide Complex. Is there any further discussion? Well, there's a vote. We don't need a second on this. No discussion. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next we're going to do the pressure washing for Beach Village, Convention Center, and Great Dunes restrooms. Board members have received a Finance Committee recommendation to approve the proposed funding request for pressure washing for Beach Village, Convention Center, and Great Dunes restroom. Is there any further discussion? Okay, we don't need a second. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Next is the funding request for replacement grass in 4 locations. Board members have received a Finance Committee recommendation to approve the proposed funding request for replacement grass in 4 locations. Is there any further discussion before a vote to adopt the recommendation? We do not need a second. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. What's on this, on the, do we need this on RFQ 342?
No, sir.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so I don't need that. The next is according to my notes, Doc's Snack Shop assignment of lease. Board members have received a Committee of the Whole recommendation to approve Doc's Snack Shop assignment of lease. Is there any further discussion before a vote to adopt the resolution? Chair hears none. There's no motion or second needed. Any discussion? All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We have Resolution R 2021-3 to direct landline 911 calls from Georgia State Patrol to Glen Brunswick 911 Center. Board members have received a Committee of the Whole recommendation to adopt Resolution R 2021-3 to redirect landline 911 calls from Georgia State Patrol to Glen Brunswick 911 Center. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have Resolution R 2021-4 adopting revised fine schedule. Board members have received a Committee of the Whole recommendation to adopt Resolution R 2021-4 adopting the revised fine schedule. Is there any further discussion before a vote to adopt the resolution? Don't need a second. No discussion. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries. And then we have the request for proposal 361 for code revisions. Board members have received a committee of the whole recommendation to approve request for proposals 361 for code revisions. Is there any further discussion before a vote to adopt the resolution? No motion or second is needed. The chair hears none. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And do we have further public comment? Any further public comment? Any further public comment? Okay. Thank you all very, very much. I appreciate it. And, we will now go to a work session regarding previous golf studies, history and context of the golf master plan, analysis, discussion of Vincent design recommendation, and general discussion.
Mr. Chairman, point of privilege, can we
Yes.
move to a break
Yes, we can.
and then reconvene?
Can you adjourn? Adjourn, please. A motion to adjourn.
Oh. Then we can do that. Yes, we do need a motion. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Been moved. And I'm going to go ahead and guess we need a second officially. Been moved and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? Chair hears none. We are adjourned. Thank you all.